You understand, you understand what competency is?
Competency means like you work better or you don't work better.
That's more like productivity, actually.
Oh, okay.
So competency is being so it would cover the moral side of things, but also like it would cover things like laziness or the ability. Competency literally is the ability to do something,
The
and
ability to do
competency
something.
lacking the ability to do something. So
Oh,
productivity is a part of it, but can you go more broadly, like what makes a worker able to do a job in general? It's not a specialized question. What are some common things that make someone incompetent or competent? Because obviously you've met both those types of people.
I would say maybe of workers' general skill, like communication skills. A worker has to be very must have, must have extra skills like communication skills, social skills, and some computing skills to suit this era.
Okay, good. And can you give me examples of times when you've worked with competent people?
Or the times when I work with competent people.
Right.
Can I say that I am the only one? No, just kidding. Okay, just kidding. Um, because in Malaysia we are more laid back. I wouldn't say even I myself sometimes I don't work competently because what's the point of rushing? So competent people I would say yeah, maybe in the university days when I study in the college, I met a lot of competent candidates, but for the workforce so far, I haven't met one. Normally, we just like complete the task within the deadline, before the deadline, I would say. Yeah.
I think maybe I don't know if you're confusing exceptionalism with competency, because competency is if you just show up to work and you work 9 to 5 and you finish all of your tasks, then that would be considered competent. But someone who's extraordinary or who's excellent would be going beyond competency into
Oh,
exceptionalism. So they're going above and beyond what they're supposed to be doing. So that's an important distinction, right? So competent is just the baseline of where you want your workers to be. And you could think of incompetent as sort of an F grade, and competent would be everything from A. Well, no, I would say A is an exceptional. I would say a competent worker is somewhere around a C, but it still includes your people that are exceptional. Okay, you want to move on to the next question, or do you have any questions? Like for me, questions for me.
questions for you. How about you? Have you met someone who is incompetent? Who is incompetent in Thailand?
I think there's a tendency in Southeast Asia to hire people that look a certain way to teach English. And so without much vetting of their background or their qualifications. So you have a lot of people coming in to teach English who are either, we kind of divide them into the backpackers, like people who are here for a paid vacation. I'm just talking specifically about Thailand now.
So
I'm
that's
sure.
mean they don't really care about like qualifications or anything. They just maybe they look at your nationality and then if you are maybe a Caucasian, then they hire you.
Correct. Yeah. They look at your face, and sometimes that you would expect that at least there would be native speakers, but often they aren't even native speakers. So you have someone that learned English as a second language, say in Russia or France, and
Oh,
then they're teaching someone else, which is fine. I mean, but what's the point of hiring, Caucasian people if they're not native speakers? It's just, at that point, it's just all about appearance, and it's sort of silly.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that I've met plenty of people from all over that are competent, but you get plenty of people that are hired and maybe they lack even the basic qualifications to teach. For competent people, yeah, most of my friends are teachers, and I would say all of them are competent.
All of them.
Most of them are exceptional,
I see. So
yeah.
humble. Okay.
So let's talk about the next question. Tell me about the environment. How do you think climate change will affect human society in the next 20 years?
I would say the environment will turn worse, will become worse. And also we might face some face the risk of like extinction of certain species. And then climate change, it has to be about the weather or anything, is it?
Right, but I'm looking for the human side of it. So how do you think that the changes that the earth will go through
I
will
guess
affect?
there wouldn't be, I mean, I would say the climate will I mean, we will suffer from like global warming and this kind of problem. So in order to like reduce um the activities of like deforestation, we have to, I mean, in the future we might not use papers anymore. It's going to be we are going to be paperless society, and then we will end up using ebooks as compared to now. Now we are using the physical books and also the hard copy. So in the future, we might just use the soft copy instead of the hard
Ebook
copy.
right here. I was just using it,
But it's,
but yeah, they're not super common.
oh, okay.
Do you think that there's any benefits to human society do you think that maybe it would bring people together if there's dramatic changes in the environment?
I guess yes, because right now we are more environmental conscious. I mean, for our society, like we refuse plastic bags, but I'm not sure whether I don't think so Thailand practice it, because every time I go to Thailand, even I just buy a
Yeah.
bottle of water, they just give me a plastic bag. So I guess they are not conscious about it yet. They are not aware of it yet. Oh yeah, coming back to our topic. So and right now we are like reducing the usage of like plastics and all. And I think the technology has really brought some changes to the environment ever since we have this kind of like PDF files and also the scanners, everything. So it makes things easier. We don't need to like print a lot of papers.
Right.
So it reduces a little bit of the effect, the negative effects.
Do you think that digitalization will ever completely replace paper copies for reading and for record keeping? Well, it already has for record keeping. So for reading and for studying.
I don't think so, because it will be unfair for the authors, because for all the PDF files you can actually like download it and then you can pass it to everyone. So people, the users won't be like spending a lot of money in buying the original copy. So yeah, I think maybe yeah, there are pros and cons in that for that.
Maybe. it's good. It seems like you use facts to support your question or your answers to the questions, which is what I was looking for. I think you did a better job of answering the second question. The first question, I think
I'm
you're a
still,
little mixed up with competency, but you still did a good job once we got over that little bit of distinction between just being competent or exceptional, or I think you did a good job answering the question and discussing it. So the last two questions, I want to save those for after the body of our lesson. Is that okay?
sure.
Okay, let's go. And did you run into any English questions? Oh, this is a different thing. Did you run into any different, sorry, that was for my younger students. Any questions this week that you wanted to ask me? Like any,
So far, there is no question from me.
okay. Nothing, when you were speaking English this week or watching movies, films, any grammar questions, vocabulary?
Oh, no, this week I was pretty packed with a lot of work, so I didn't have time to.
Got you. Okay, so let's go through morphemes. So did you have time to look over this?
No, actually, you just sent me yesterday, but I
Right.
haven't got the time to like
Yeah,
look
no
through it.
problem. That's fine because that means that it'll be fresh for you.
Mm.
So, and yeah, I didn't give you much time to look over it. Sorry about that.
Also,
So morphemes are the smallest units of English. So you can think of them just like atoms in science, in matter. Of course, now we know they're subatomic particles, right? But
yeah, subatomic particles.
but let's pretend that atoms are still probably the smallest basic unit of matter, right?
Yeah.
So let's treat a morpheme as sort of the atom, and they're forming the molecules of our words, right? Where the words themselves are.
You mean take the subatomic particles as the morpheme?
Just forget about the subatomic particles.
Okay. All right.
That's the word is a molecule made up of individual atoms, which are your morphemes.
Uh,
But just like there are certain elements that are just all one thing, right? So there are words that are morphemes. So a morpheme is the smallest unit, and there are words that are made of a single morpheme. Like, for example, but, these are just a morpheme. So words can be morphemes. They can be morphemes as well. Like board here without the pre, that's just going to be a morpheme. You can't break it down into any smaller pieces.
mhm.
So do you want to read through this starting from here?
Okay, sure. A word, what is a morpheme? A word, morpheme is a word that cannot be divided. Oh, yeah. Oh, here I need to start off with the first sentence. A word cannot be divided into morphemes just by sounding out its syllables. Some morphemes, like apple, have more than one syllable. Others, like as, are less than a syllable. A morpheme is a form, a sequence of sounds with recognizable meaning. Knowing a word's early history or etymology may be useful in dividing it into morphemes, but the decisive
Just
factor
like
is the form meaning link. So I don't understand the whole sentences.
so let's break it down. The hardest part I think is here. So a word's early history. I don't know if you know about English, but it comes from the language of the Angles, who were a tribe living in both they were living in England, and then you had the Saxons who were living in present day Germany and France. And so English is sort of a hybrid language of those two, which in turn were influenced by Latin and Greek. So a lot of, I think we talked about that in an early lesson, how like chronology, the word, oh, my computer is lagging. Okay, so chronology is means the sequence of events according to time.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from the root chronos, which is a Greek word that just means clock or time. So if you know the history, then you can sort of figure out words that way. So some morphemes can be figured out just by knowing the roots of the word, but the form meaning link. So the form is the letters that make up the word. And the meaning is when we see that form or when we hear the sounds, so a sequence of sounds. For example, when I say apple, hopefully in your head, you don't even have to think about it, just an apple pops up. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
So our morphemes are just the building blocks that we use for language. And I wish I hadn't written this so complex, but whatever. By breaking things down into morphemes, we can take these words that are sort of on the surface complex, and we can make them really simple to understand. And we can use this system of breaking things down into morphemes to learn across the board many different English bits of vocabulary, words, meaning, and it follows a system, which is nice because I know you said you studied science and you probably have that influences the way that you learn language. It's more of a logical thing, right? And that's sort of why I like morphemes. So let's go through these words.
Unacceptable.
Do you know what that means? Sorry.
Unacceptable means it's not acceptable.
Right, exactly. What about unaccustomed?
Unaccustomed. I only know the word custom or customize. Like you can customize the design or anything else, but unaccustomed, I'm not pretty sure the meaning of it.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah. Invaluable. Inflammable.
Do you know what these words mean?
You mean invaluable? Invaluable means it's not valuable. It's there's no worth in something.
It means very valuable, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like extremely valuable.
Means priceless?
Correct.
Priceless. Okay.
Inflammable.
Hold on. Okay. So another one is inflammable. Inflammable means it's not flammable, like it won't it won't get caught.
Flammable.
Uh,
I went through and picked some very confusing ones. So inflammation, do you know what this one means?
Inflammation is a scientific word, it's a scientific term. See, so inflammation is like you have if let's say you have swellings on a certain like areas of the body part, so most probably the body part is like inflamed.
Right. Yep.
And then indecent. I only know the word decent. Decent means like you, like for example, I've gotten a decent job. Decent means like not bad. So indecent might be bad.
Yep, correct.
Okay, and then indispensable. I only know the word dispense. It's for the pharmacist. The pharmacist will dispense the drugs and also, but for indispensable, not really sure about it.
We'll come back to it. There's a way to use the fact that you know what dispense means to figure out the word. These ones, inflammable and invaluable, they come from a different root. That's why they're confusing, because most native speakers think that inflammable should mean not flammable, like unable to catch fire. But you see trucks, lorries, whatever you want to call them, with inflammable written on the side and a big warning sign, and that means that it's gasoline or something that's extremely flammable, extremely able to be caught on fire or explode. So it comes from a different root, and it's a Latin root. We'll go over that later. That's why it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So same with invaluable. People get
Sorry. What is the root word for inflammable? Real? Is it flammable? The root word of inflammable
It's
or flame?
the basic morpheme here would be flammable. It would actually, I would say you could break it down to just flame. My computer is really irritating me. I might have to restart, and I can just add time to our lesson.
Oh, sure.
If
If
it
you
keeps
want.
going like this. Let me see if it fixes itself. I'm not sure if it's the internet connection or what. So flame, we can build from there. Flame means what? Fire,
Fire, yeah.
right? So inflame is a word. It's the base of inflammation. So inflame, when it happens in the body, it's when blood rushes to a site. And the reason that is used is because, it turns red. It gets bigger in the same way that fire operates. So this word, a bowl, so we'll just skip ahead here. Bowl changes a verb to an adjective. So we're saying that something is flammable. It means capable of flame. So there you go. You have flame and a bowl, flammable.
Yeah.
And that means that it's able to catch fire. So I have to check what the Latin root is. It's been a while. I forget the Latin root of inflammable. I can check it here in a second, but that phone is dead. Anyway, it's a different root, and that's why we have the IN in the front. It doesn't come from the same place as indecent, where in means not, right?
Yeah, like inexperienced.
Yeah, it's actually, the in is part of the Latin root. It's part of the base. But today, I mean, there's some crossover between like the Latin and Greek roots of words and the morphemes, but I don't want to make it super complex. And morphemes.
Fine. I'm only more interested in the definition. Like sometimes I need to like train my explaining skills. Yeah.
Got you. So we have different types of morphemes, right? We'll just go over that way you'll understand what.
We have prefix and suffix. So prefix is the one that is happen to be in front before the word.
Right.
Before.
And these are bound morphemes. So what does bound mean?
Bound means joined together.
Correct. So bound morphemes can only exist joined to another morpheme. They can't exist on their own. Right.
Okay.
So we have individual, well, you can just read over these in your spare time if you want.
S as in cats. ED as in crumb.
It should be crumb. I don't know why that says crumbed.
Okay. Crumbled.
Yeah.
And then
Crumbly.
un as in unhappy, miss as in misfortune, and as in teacher. Okay.
Right. So looking do you know what misfortune is?
Misfortune means like it's a noun, and to explain somebody is like unlucky because
Right. Misfortune, bad luck.
unluck. But you can't say unluck, right? You can only say unlucky.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can the base morpheme there is luck. That's
Oh,
the root word. Then we add e, and then we add un to make it unlucky, right? But some words can't be. It doesn't. They're not just like you know what Legos are.
mm-hmm.
They're not just like Legos. We can't just put on plus luck and that's automatically a word. Some of them need more parts to work. So luck, we know what luck is. Lucky would be changing the noun to an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Unlucky is the opposite of luck. So, or
Lucky.
bad luck. So bad luck, adjective. We know what, do you know what would mean?
Is if you put at the end of the morpheme, it turns out to be a person.
Correct. Yeah, someone who does that thing. Okay. So we also have individual. I'm getting an error message. I might have to restart. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can.
Individual words may be morphemes. So we have this quote from a movie. Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer. Have you heard that phrase before?
No.
It's an idiom. So
Oh,
an idiom, you know that, right?
yeah.
So it's used for someone that's staring at you. You would say to them, it's not something that you would say to someone you don't know, but like, why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer. The implication being that they're staring at you so much that they might as well take a picture.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So you are not comfortable with the stare, so you just tell them this idiom, right?
So I use picture here, which is a morpheme. You can break picture down, but you can't break it down into any units of smaller meaning.
Pick
Like
and ure, right?
what's
Picked and ure. So it makes
those are just the syllables there. I mean, you could go down to there is no smaller unit than picture.
Oh, okay. So this is the original word, right? It exists independently, right?
Correct. So whole words that are morphemes are called free morphemes, as in they're free to stand on their own.
Oh, okay.
So, by the way, morpheme is a modern thing. So I was using the roots as an example, like the etymology, the history of the word. But when we look at morphemes, we're looking at how everything makes sense in the way that English is spoken today. Modern English would be English after the 1800s. It really hasn't changed much in that time. The way that people speak has changed a bit, but the way that the grammar works and everything else and the basic vocabulary has only been expanded. It hasn't changed around a whole lot. So when morphemes, we're talking about just the meaning today. Like, so it's just, a morpheme is just the smallest unit of meaning. So the atom. So contracted words can be morphemes. Do you want to read this quote?
They want to put you in the box, but nobody is in the box. You are not in the box.
Right. So even this small bit here, because it's R,
Are.
so you are, right? Each part is a separate morpheme.
Okay.
And then I have this sort of slang contraction here. So here, right?
Here are.
Correct. This is more slang English. I don't think it's proper, but it is something that you'll hear people speak depending on what they're on where they're from. They'll say, here are some things for you to do, right?
Here's some things from for you.
Let me hand you some work.
Malay we say
Okay. Let's take a look at this word, unsystematically. So do you want to read through?
unsystematically.
So it's difficult on its own, but if we break it down into morphemes, it's fairly simple. So let's look at the root first, system. Oh, by the way, do you know what unsystematically means? Do you want to take a guess?
Unsystematically means it's not systematic.
Correct.
Something is done in a non-systematic way.
Correct. That's what the ali would do, right?
Yeah.
So unsystematically. So we have a root word, which is system, and then we have bound morphemes, right? Do you remember bound? It means it can't stand on its own.
It can't stand on its own. Okay.
They attach to the root. So attic, right? So un means not. And the example I wrote was uncool. But can you give me 5 other words that start with un?
I just not unhappy.
Unhappy.
Let me check. Let me think. Unless.
Unless, sure. Unless is a bit different, right? Because it's, I believe, a preposition. It doesn't mean the opposite of less, right? That would be more.
Under.
It denotes like, well, you can come over unless you're busy. It gives an out for the other person.
Okay.
What about let's see. What were the ones that I had? So heard. What happens if you add un to heard?
Unheard.
Right. So that's unheard of is a common thing you'll hear, which means that it hasn't been said before and therefore people wouldn't hear it. Unspoken, right? An unspoken rule is one that is
Unspoken. Unspoken rules means you never explain the rules beforehand, right? Or
it's a rule that's followed without, it's an implicit rule. So implicit meaning that it's just something that's followed without actually ever being spoken or written, in fact. So it's, for example, we don't spit on people in public. Why? Well, we just don't do that. It's part of socialization. It probably is written somewhere that you shouldn't spit on people. So maybe that's not the best example, but we don't curse in public, even though there might not be a law against it. It's just an unspoken rule. Or on a more subtle level, like, can you think of some kind of subtle social things that are unspoken?
it means give some examples of some social rules that are unspoken.
Mhm.
Like pee in the public.
Yeah, well, that's actually, there's laws against indecent exposure and public urination, but what about like speaking loudly, right?
Yeah, speaking loudly. Yeah.
It,
That's right.
being obscene in public, so talking about private things in public. It's not, it might not be against the law in some places, but it's still
to do so.
right, it's not, it's an unspoken rule.
Running running naked in the street.
Right. Well, that's a law against that. There's lots of, most of the behaviors that we do in our social interactions that we're following unspoken rules that we've learned from parents, friends. It's the process of socialization, right?
Mhm.
You know what socialization is?
Socialization means I don't know how to explain that.
So part of like the reason that kids go to school, part of is for education, but the other part of it is for socialization.
The
So
norms
I,
in the social in the society.
correct, yeah. They
Okay.
learn like socialization is forcing someone to
Practice the
follow
norms.
the norm of the society. What's that?
You mean to force the society to follow a particular norm?
It's more about the individual, but yeah, your first answer was correct.
My first answer, which one?
Yeah, you said that it was socialization is following the norms of society. So yeah,
Following the norm that suits the society.
yeah. So let's move on to the next part. So you know what system,
Mm-hmm.
so things working together smoothly. So a system of well-made machines. Attic, this is used to make adjectives, should just say an adjective, adjectives from verbs and nouns. Example, idiomatic. So I gave you an idiom earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So idiomatic means what? What
Uh,
idiomatic expression?
idiomatic in expression means like you express in a way that is unclear. You have to like take a guess of the idiom, right?
Correct. Let me fix my computer problems and I'll pause our time, okay? I won't.
Okay, sure, no problem. Wait for you.
Post is coming through a little choppy, like a bad cell phone connection. So I need to figure out what's going on here. It's
Sure.
definitely from my computer because I was, okay,
Okay.
see what programs are running. Okay. So it is my internet. It's Chrome that's using all these resources, but why? Let me exit out of Chrome and then I'll come back.
Okay, sure.
Hopefully I'm not having.
Yeah, I know. Why are you lagging? You have so many things in the computer.
Okay, it's worse. I can barely hear you. I'm gonna restart my computer and then I'll
Oh,
join.
sure,
the
no
Okay.
problem. Just take your time.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. 么我要上课？
等一下先，我要爬，我去拿锁匙给你。锁匙给你去哪里？
工作，因为我有公司，1点可以吗？因为我有工作在家，然后我有补习，另外一个课在school 的啦，有 online class 啦，可以1点吗？
Okay, I think it should be fine now. Thanks for waiting.
Okay, no problem.
I'll add that
Yes,
time
yeah.
to our lesson, so don't worry about that. Anyway, so let's go back to what we were talking about.
Oh yeah,
So,
you can share your screen.
oh,
first.
let me check that. Can you see everything or?
Yeah, everything is clear.
All right, great. So that's good. Your voice was really choppy. It was like when you take a cell phone through a tunnel almost. And when I was typing, it was, I don't know if you've ever had computer lag where it doesn't, your key inputs don't match what comes up on screen. It's,
Oh yeah. Sometimes it happens.
yeah. Anyway, so restarting fixed it. So we're looking at, I believe we just did attic. You told me what idiomatic was, right? So can you tell me again what idiomatic was? I didn't hear your explanation.
So idiomatic expression means like you express something unclearly, but you can actually like guess the meaning of the idiom. Like you can like just tell it in
You're overthinking it. Just think what an idiom is.
idiom.
Right.
Yeah. Idiom means like it is not clear. How is it?
No. An idiom is a local expression, like
Local expression.
something that's particular to a certain culture. Right?
Oh, okay.
Like you get what you pay for. That is an expression that's particular, you know,
Mhm.
like a saying, saying, that's another
Yeah,
easier
same.
way to say idiom. So it's literally an adjective that is an idiom, right? It's taking the noun idiom and making it an adjective. So idiomatic describes an expression that is an idiom, right?
Mhm.
It's used a lot when we talk about language, like, okay, idiomatic expressions are often difficult for English learners, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so al, all, having the former character of, and I gave seasonal, accidental. Can you think of some other ones with all, some vocabulary?
Is dismal considered as one?
Yep.
Dismal?
Yeah. Dismal is its own, it can't be broken down any further than dismal, so it's its own morpheme. But yeah, it's an example of it
Functional?
has the form or character of being bad or gloomy.
Oh, you mean dismal, right?
Yeah. Some other ones. You think of any?
Functional?
Yeah, great. So, and Lee is,
But opal is not considered as one, right? Opal is actually a
can you spell it? This one?
OPAL.
Awful?
Yeah, this is not considered as one,
No.
right? This
It
is
It happens to have the AL. Like another word, awful. Do you know this one? OFFAL.
no.
It means the intestines of an animal when it's used as food. So when you kill an animal for food, the offal is the stuff that's removed. Intestines, stomach, all of that is offal. So you'll see places that sell offal as food as well. It's popular in Thailand. They don't call
You
it that.
mean the strange organs of the animals, right?
It's just any organs.
Any organs.
You have the meat, right? The meat is the muscles. You have the fat, and then you have the like skin, obviously, and then the offal is all the organs. When you kill an animal, they come out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they separate them.
Normally we can just throw away, throw
Right,
it
yeah.
away, but they use it as their food.
Right, certain cultures use it as food. Italians are known for, they eat tripe. Tripe is its intestines cooked. And anyway, I don't want to get off topic. But that's how you learn vocabulary too, is going a little off topic. So Lee, the manner, the way that something happens. So truly, right?
Yeah.
Think of some other examples.
Scaly.
Yeah.
Scaly skin. The crocodiles have scaly skin.
Right. Yeah, good one. And so together, unsystematically means having the manner of not working together smoothly or done in a way that doesn't follow a system. So can you look at the sentences?
The books in his library were unsystematically lined up on the shelf. Grave robbers unsystematically looted the Egyptian grave, leaving modern archaeologists with an incomplete idea of how the mummy was buried.
Right. So I think this sentence gives a good idea. I specifically wrote it so that you can sort of see. If you were normally writing, you wouldn't add this second part, but I put it in so that you could sort of see how unsystematically it works, how it functions in the sentence, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know exactly how the mummy was buried because when the robbers looted it, you know what looted means?
Looted means like you take something without permission, like
Right.
basically you are stealing. Is it
Yeah.
steal?
It's specifically stealing something that's unattended, looted. So like when a bunch of people evacuate, like let's say there's a hurricane coming or a typhoon, tsunami, and everyone leaves, then you usually have looters. Looters are opportunistic thieves that just come and steal what they can.
Oh, okay.
So because of the way that the grave was looted, the scientists that are trying to look at how the Egyptians were, and I spelled Egyptian with an O, oops, should be A. The scientists that were looking at how the Egyptians were buried, their mummies were buried, have no idea because of the way that people took things out. Anyway, so another example, and I borrowed this one from the state of Victoria in Australia, but unreliability So we have unreliability. And do you know this word?
Unreliability.
Mhm,
It's a noun, abstract noun.
mhm.
And then the root word itself is rely. And then you have of the other three morphemes, I would say bound morphemes, right?
Right,
Bound
correct.
morphemes that are joined together. So yeah. But for the you're asking me the meaning, right? Or
Yeah, it's not, I think you know it though, right? Or you can guess at the meaning.
rely means like depend. So
Mhm.
unreliability means like, can you say like this friend is this friend is reliable? I only know the word reliable, but
You can say that your friend is unreliable or
oh, your friend is
reliable,
unreliable.
right?
Unreliable means that you cannot depend on that person, you cannot count on that person.
Right. So unreliability is the quality of being unreliable.
Or quality of.
Can you use it in a sentence? Unreliability. Talk about a car. Talk
Mm,
about a type of car. Let's say, let's just make up a car. Grasso. Let's say Grasso cars are, and let's do
unreliable.
reliability.
Russell cars are unreliable.
Right. They are known for their unreliability.
Oh, okay. Let me take this down.
Okay.
Okay, done.
So using the same system of morphemes, you can break down many words. And if, as long as you know the base word, the root word, you can figure out what the full word means using this system. So it's a way of breaking things down into their components, just like you would understand anything else. You can break down words in this way. So let's go back to the words in the beginning. So let's see, unaccustomed. How would you break this down?
Unaccustomed.
There's actually just custom.
Oh, and ed
Mhm,
at the back.
right.
So
And
is also considered as a morpheme, but I thought
yeah,
is it also exists independently, right?
it does. This is in this case. So
It can exist as
custom,
an article.
right? Custom is a thing in society, a law in society, right? Something
Mhm.
that people follow, like the custom of covering your hair for Muslims, right? So a custom means with the AC added, it should have AC. So a custom would be when something follows a custom, when something is used to that thing, right? When you're used to something, you're accustomed to it, right? And then unaccustomed means that you're not used to that thing. So the meaning is not used to. In a sentence, we could say, she was unaccustomed to the heat of the desert.
Mm, Okay. She was not used to the heat of the desert.
Correct. Unacceptable is pretty easy. Invaluable, I have to look up the root for that, but let's just use invalue as our root, which would mean super valuable or super value.
I thought in means not.
It's different here. It's actually part of here. I'll just look up the root. So for invaluable,
Can
And
you share the
inflammable.
screen again? Is
what's
it
that?
can you share the screen again?
Sure.
It's not.
Probably when I change tabs.
Yeah, you can share the screen now.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hold on. So let's look at the actual root. So now we're going into etymology. So we do have in. It means that it's so valuable that you're not able to value it. Okay, it's above valuable, too valuable for an exact
Too
estimate.
valuable. I see.
But if you look at inflammable, it actually has, so it comes from this root. So here, the Latin inflammare means to set on fire. So it basically, flammable and inflammable came from the same root, inflammare, but people simplified it and said, okay, let's just drop the N and let's just say flammable, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, other people were like, okay, let's not drop the root and let's leave it as inflammable. So you have able to be set on fire, extremely able to be set on fire. That's why it's confusing. I just threw those in as examples of words that can't be solved with morphemes, not well anyway. Invaluable, it's the fact that it means not value. It's hard to, that it's above being valued. It's a little bit, it's not logical. Can you see my screen still? I switched tabs.
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
I can
great.
see it right now.
So indecent, this one follows it, but you had it already. And what about indispensable?
Means like a certain drugs are indispensable, like morphines or maybe sleeping pills.
Correct. Well, actually, no, that's incorrect. Morphine is indispensable, not because you're thinking of a prescription drug, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's indispensable because it's super useful. That's what indispensable would mean. Like you could say indispensable. That's why I was on board until you said the second drug. Because you could say, or you could argue that morphine is indispensable. Let's look at the meaning. So in this case, not.
Not.
Dispense means to give out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then able is able to give out, right?
Yeah.
So dispensable means that you're able to just throw it away. Okay. In this case, to dispense with something means to put it in the bin. So there's a different meaning there. The fact that you're able to give it out means that it's like, it's cheap, easy, common. So indispensable means that it's not able to be thrown away easily. And literally it means useful, essential, right? So indispensable means useful.
So useful that you don't throw it away.
Right. Well, that's the literal meaning, but that meaning is useful or essential. So drugs like penicillin is indispensable, but other things, getting away from drugs, you could say that honesty is indispensable. Okay.
On this. Okay.
Let's go back to, for a competent worker, timeliness is indispensable. Okay, so
Yeah, can you give me a second? I need to like take this down. Okay, done.
cool. What I hope, my goal for this lesson is just to get you thinking in a different way about words.
Mhm.
And so when you're building your understanding and vocabulary, you can sort of break it down into meanings. And you will run into words like invaluable or inflammable, but most of them can be logically, you can ascertain the meaning. Do you know that word, ascertain?
No.
So ascertain means to figure out
Okay.
using logic. So to figure something out using logic.
Okay.
Okay, so disinterested, right? Can you tell me what that means?
Disinterested means uninterested.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know how to like use the morpheme. Like sometimes you have disinterest and also uninterest. Because these and
Very-
they
Um,
almost have the same meaning.
They do have the same meaning. You have, so you have convergent meaning where the meanings sort of, they started separate places, on and dis, but because they have the same, because on and dis in this case are used the same way, the meanings are the same. Just like unashamed,
Not shame. Not ashamed.
unashamed of her grades. Right? Let's say her low grades.
Mhm.
Because the implication here is that you have something that's, you could feel shame over, but she doesn't feel shame over it, so she's unashamed, right?
Mhm.
Or he was unashamed of his nudity, right? He was walking around naked, but he had no shame. For some, I don't know why these are both sort of negative, but generally unashamed is more of a positive quality, right? Not feeling shame for something.
Mhm.
All right, infrequent.
Infrequent means like very rare. It something doesn't happen frequently.
Yep, and you just
Mm.
answered the second one, right?
Oh, okay.
So infrequently, you already said something that doesn't happen frequently, right?
Mhm.
What about legality?
Legality, legal. It comes from the word legal. So something that is permitted. You can do something because it's permitted.
Right, the quality of being legal is legality. What about illegal?
Illegal means something that is prohibited
Yep.
and it's not right to do that thing.
Excellent. Good use of vocabulary there. Asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical means A means without
Yeah, lacking. Correct.
lacking, and then asymmetrical means it doesn't have any shape or it's not like symmetrical is like you can actually fold a shape and then
Right.
it forms two different sides they
Right.
and
Like
have
this.
the same shapes,
Yeah.
right?
So you could say that it's lacking symmetry. So it doesn't have that quality of being the same on both sides.
Yeah.
Right. Amorphous.
Amorphous, I think it's oh, okay, without form
Means
or without
form.
shape.
Yeah, without shape. So things like jelly, water, they're amorphous.
Oh,
A lot of
gel.
times you hear this people describe something as it was just an amorphous blob. So an
Blob.
amorphous blob is just something that has no shape or form. So we're actually out of time for this one. So let's go and finish our discussion before we end the lesson. I want to get through these before we end. We'll go a little bit over the hour, but it doesn't matter. So do you think that things today are better, worse, or the same than they were 40 years ago?
I mean, for the society, I would say worse, because 40 years ago we are more friendly, I would say. The society, the people are more friendly to each other, and we are closer to each other, we help each other. But right now we are quite, I would say, selfish in a way that we don't really interact with people. We interact with the screen more than the people.
And what about things like racism? Would you say they've improved?
It depends, because I think, yeah, racism still happens in some parts of the world, but I would say right now we are more tolerable. I would say,
Yeah, tolerant.
we are more tolerant to
Mhm.
each other. And yeah, but for Malaysia, I would say unity. I mean, we are more united in the past compared to right now,
Right.
because in the what is it called? Constitution, is it? So they actually practice, I would say there are some like racial agenda going on. Like, we have special rights for the Malays, while the Chinese and Indians, we don't have much right and benefits compared to the to the Malays, because they are.
Gotcha. I agree with all those. I think you supported it well. Well, you supported it well. It doesn't matter if I agree. The fact that I happen to agree is not really relevant, but you're supporting your case as well, which is good. What about healthcare?
Healthcare, I would say definitely it's better than the past.
Mhm.
And because of we have a lot of data, and the technology actually handle it pretty well. Yeah, and yeah, it is more, I mean, yeah, a lot of treatments are getting better and better. I
Mhm.
mean, we don't need to like suffer from pain anymore. Like, we have like what is that calling?
Anesthetic.
Yeah, anesthetic. And yeah, back in those days they don't have any. So yeah.
Right. You have anesthesia and anesthetics,
Okay.
and anesthesia is the individual thing that causes you to feel no pain. And then anesthesia is the practice of giving people something that they don't feel pain. And then anesthetics are the actual drugs, etc. So
Okay.
to give someone anesthesia means to make them not feel anything. And
How about the substance that make you like
that's an anesthetic.
die? Because some dogs they
Yeah.
are suffering.
Yeah. In a high dose, it'll kill you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anesthetize the dog.
The size.
That just means to give it enough that it doesn't feel pain. But then you can also euthanize the dog.
Euthanize.
Euthanasia is when you euthanize, which is to give it's to put the dog to sleep forever. So to kill it with drugs.
Put it in sleep. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they say putting it to sleep in the West, but it's just to make kids feel better about the fact that their dogs are dying. Anyway, so environment,
And
what about that? Do you think things are better, worse, or the same than they were 40 years ago?
I would say no, because we have a lot of like skyscrapers, a lot of trees are cut down, and then in favor of like to build more houses, we actually sacrifice a lot of the we actually cut down a lot of trees, and we, for our convenience, we actually use a lot of plastic bags, so the environment is not
Yeah.
not as good as the past.
But like you said earlier, people are also aware of the issues, maybe more so than they were 40 years ago. So there is some, at least in the field of awareness, maybe there are some gains. But yeah, it's good. For each of your arguments, you give supporting facts, which is good.
Thank you.
And you use logic to support your arguments. Well done. Do you understand effect versus effect?
This is effect, or this is it? How do you pronounce the first one?
They
Effect.
can be pronounced differently, but usually Americans say effect, same.
Effect. Okay, yeah. So effect is the outcome,
Right.
the final outcome of something.
Correct.
While effect, the second one will be the factors that cause the effect to happen.
Affect is a verb.
Yeah,
So to affect something is to cause it to have changes.
yeah.
So to affect something is to actually change that noun. So
Awesome.
how do you, asking someone, if you say, how do you think that will? So,
Affect.
right, yeah, how will that affect the environment? It means how will that change the environment versus what are the effects of climate change? So just a little thing to, this isn't spoken English because they're used the same, they're same sound, right? But for writing, it's important. Okay, so I think on Wednesday, let's go over
Again,
yeah, let's go over some more discussion questions and work on that a bit. And just review what we went over. Do you have any questions?
no, I actually like this more, I would say, like discussion part. I can learn a lot of words from you.
Sure.
While for the morphemes, I also, yeah, I am quite weak at morphemes, so sometimes you speak a little bit too fast, so I can't follow. So I need to like rewatch the video to like,
Okay, I'll try to work on that.
yeah.
I sometimes spit a lot of information at once. So,
Yeah. So thank you very much for today's lesson.
okay, I'm glad you learned some things and I'll see you again.
Oh, okay. See you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.